I call it surveillance because usually the parents that wants to look at their chat and, oh, I just by mistake I close it. And then
Yes,
yeah?
yes, yeah,
Then
yeah.
usually you need to have some kind of backup system to get, to be sure what
you can do that, yeah.
I think it's more safety for them.
Yeah. Now the other thing is, your kids know how to flip the screen as soon as you walk in the room, right? They know how, they see you coming, they hear you coming up the stairs or whatever it is, right? And they do this, right? What? Sorry? I was working on I was doing my homework. Yeah? Right? Social Studies 9. They know how to do that, whatever, right? I mean, in the Linux world, it's incredibly fast, the stuff you can do. So they know how to do that, but you know how to watch body language. And the child who's done the recent flip before you come in the room has a certain kind of body language that's different from the child who has not just done that, right? And sometimes you can even, if they're not particularly good at it, you can hear the click or you can hear the key sequence just before you come in the door. I think if you can be playful about it, and you can be humorous about it, and you can talk about it, it all comes back again to this thing of staying in the conversation, being educated, remembering to educate your kids about it, remembering to remind them, hey, are we doing safe browsing today? Is there anything, that's been happening that we can talk about that's been happening as part of your online experience? Are you worried about anything? You should be doing regular check-ins with your kids, like you would about their health in other ways, right? Like you would about their school, right? Every once in a while, you have a little chat with them, every month, say. Sit down for half an hour and say, how's it going online-wise, What are your friends doing? What are you doing? Because, part of what happens is your kids, eventually, once they become, say, 10, 11, 12 from then on, they're going to other kids' houses where there might be very different rules about computer use than at your house. So you need to arm your kids with skills and strategies so that when they go to that other house and the other kids say, oh, hey, let's do this, your child has the presence of mind and the confidence and the knowledge to say, you know what? I don't really want to do that because it doesn't seem very safe to me. It's what you do with drugs and alcohol. You train your child so that when they're walking down the street and somebody says to them, hey, man, do you want to have a little toke? You train them what to do, and you hope that in the moment they do it. You can't guarantee that they do it, but you hope that they will, right? It's the same thing with technology. At some point, you don't have control over it. And eventually, once they're 15, 16, 17, you completely surrender control over it. So you hope that in the time that you can stay in the conversation with them about these things, that you can inculcate or inoculate them with skills and strategies and knowledge to assist with this very delicate and vulnerable period. They need your help. And they will rebel against your help. They will say, don't tell me what to do. I know what I'm doing. You don't know anything. You're an idiot, right? You're a typical parent. They say all that kind of stuff. But most parents recognize that the job of the kids is to push against the boundary. And our job is to make the boundary. That's what parenting is. It's this constant negotiation between the push and the make. And it's the same thing with technology. And our problem here has been that most of us have opted out of the conversation. We don't get it. We're not interested in it. We don't want to take the time to learn about it. And so at some point we opt out. And that is really the worst thing you can do, is opt out. You've got to opt in, like with everything else. When you opt in, things happen. When you opt out, you don't know what happens, and usually it's not so good. Okay. Last question? Yes?
You mentioned that when both parents are working, there should be no computer time when they're home by themselves. How do you enforce that?
Well,
taking away the internet connection.
Right. It depends on how old your kids are. If they're young, if they're, say, under 10, then you just put everything in a room with a lock or whatever you want to do, right? You talk to them about it, but you can do whatever you want when they're young. Between 10 and 15, you need to talk to them about it. You need to say, here, listen, It's not that we don't trust you. It's not that we think you're being irresponsible. It's that we recognize that beyond that door, beyond that screen, is an entire universe full of risks that we can't predict on any given day. And so as your parents, we need to be really responsive to that in the way that we'd be responsive to other risks in the neighborhood or at the school or at the mall, right? We wouldn't let you loose in downtown Vancouver and say, you know, find your way home. We have to be responsible here. So you have a conversation with them. You say, so part of our responsibility is recognizing that there's this vulnerable time in the day, 3 to 5, say, when you guys are on your own and this is happening and that's happening. We want to get to a place where we keep you really safe during that period of time. And so we want to work toward not having the computer during that period of time. And you can go anywhere from the kids saying, okay, we'll do it. That seems reasonable. And I understand you're trying to help out, and that can be the perfect outcome. Everything from that to a real fight about it and various kinds of you taking control of the computer, right? So you can kind of mediate it in that way, and probably it'll be somewhere in the middle. Probably it'll be a little bit of, yes, we understand, but we don't like it. And you know, why should we we're responsible and we're not doing those stupid things and so on. And you may have to kind of work with it a little bit. You know, you can't in the Windows world do much about this. In the Linux world and in the Mac world, you can set login and logout times for the computer. You can say for a given user, you can only log in, you know, at any time other than 3 to 5 in the afternoon, which makes it really easy and really nice if you have to do that. I've never had to do it. But it's something I would perfectly be willing to do, and it's something I would do, probably, if my wife and I were both away from home every day from 3 to 5 and our kids were at home. I would not think of this as my kids are going to try to get away with something. I would think of this as my kids are kids, and the internet is an immensely seductive place, and they have kid judgment. It's just like I wouldn't give them the keys to the car. Even though my son says every other day, when are you going to let me drive the car, Dad? Right? It's not about the kids being bad kids. It's about the fact they're kids, and they don't have the ability on their own to mediate and modulate this for themselves. And it's a tricky thing as a parent to say that to them directly, but they know it. They do, right? Okay. Now, final things for me in the final minute of this presentation. As I said, all of this stuff is online. You can review it. I recommend that you review this with your kids. Go online with them and explore all this. They're going to agree with some of it. They're going to disagree with some of it. For the kids who are here tonight, you agree with most of what I say? If you agree with most of what I said, put up your hand. Yeah? And if you disagree with most, put up your hand. Okay, so we did okay, right? So go through this with your kids and talk to them about it. One of the things we do a disservice to kids because in some sense we don't give them enough opportunity to do the things we ask them to be. Like we're always saying we want you to be more mature and more responsible, but then we don't give them a chance to do it. They can be really mature and responsible about this kind of stuff, particularly because they know more about it than we do. Right? They are really capable of being quite mature and responsible about tech use. They've heard a lot of this stuff already before. They know much of this material. They have their own opinions about it, and we should use them as a resource. Say, what do you think? So spend time. Go through this presentation with your kids. Go online, and it's not the same link as the one you're seeing in my browser because I'm running off the local laptop here, but the link is in your reader at the very beginning. If you have further questions or ideas or whatever, feel free to get in touch with me on every page of my website. There's a contact link. And if you want to look at, if you work for an organization or if you have a parenting group or whatever, and you want to look at, part 2 of this or want to do something for a specific group of people or for a specific group of kids or whatever, I'm happy to talk with you about doing that in the future. For me personally, I'd like to thank Richmond Addiction Services and Vancouver Coastal Health and the school here for their great support and the opportunity to do this kind of thing. And thank you guys very much. And thank you all for coming tonight. I hope you got something useful.